New digital technologies are driving a step change in enterprise business transformation. At the Digital Twin Podcast, we explore the intersection of technology and business. What should your digital twin look like?
We're live. Digital Twin Podcast coming from the hours in the afternoon, morning, wherever you guys are listening. Hari and Omar here, talking about facial recognition.
Hot topic.
It is a hot topic these days, and everywhere you turn, everybody's thinking about it, right? I mean, it's so hot that we have the technology in our phones already, right? A lot of the latest smartphones have some facial recognition technology that allows you to identify you and open up and unlock the wonders of the iPhones or the Google apps or whatever, right? So I think it's
You
a
have to
great.
keep your eyes open to unlock.
Oh, you can't do it with the eyes closed? It can't notice it? Is that what
You can't hold it in front of someone who is taking a nap and unlock the phone.
That's true. That is true. You know what? I never thought about that.
Not that I tried, but it's important to know.
No, I think so. I mean, so then that technology alone is quite dynamic, would you say? I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean, who today thinks that it's some of the, greater technology? I mean, what are people using it today for? I mean, when you look at the vast applications of this, what is it being used for today? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, when we first talked about this topic is something important to discuss with our community. Um, you know, I think we talked about some of the companies that have already starting to either ban the sale of technology to the government or ban the research on the technology, right? But to your point, we are using it, right, on our phones. The technology is available today and is being leveraged. In fact, Amazon made the news in the last couple of years for selling this technology to the US government, right? And so, you know, the question is it being used in the right way, right? Is
Ooh.
that or is it that the technology is at a transitional phase that it's not good enough?
Well, I think you're hitting to the point of the technology. How reliable do we need it to be, right? Before we adopt it, right? Is it reliable today? Is it reliable enough? Is it good enough today, right?
It's a philosophical question.
Well, I mean, I
Or
mean,
is it a confidence in percentage mathematical question?
a confidence level
Yep.
of accuracy, right? I mean, no, you don't have to be accurate, but you just have to be how accurate do you think you are?
So here's the question. How accurate is accurate? Is it that, is it good enough to be more accurate than human? Or do you have to be a 100% accurate? Excuse me.
That is a good point. You know,
So today, like in the medical field, you can have X-rays or scans evaluated by the computer, and if you can evaluate those scans at an accuracy higher than a human doctor who would be able to look with naked eye and make a determination, is that good enough?
well, I guess it depends on the application, right? What it's being used for. I think.
So good question. So in tumor scans where a doctor is not able to identify maybe certain things that are not visible to human eye, but it's actually present in the scan, could be identified by a very efficient um, computer. And could it be a red flag? I mean, that's the point that you're asking about. Could it raise a false positive? But in that case, false positive is not bad. You're simply taking another look at that patient, right? You're not making a bad decision.
Yeah. I think as anything, as we talk about digital transformation and different technologies, you know, I think it's a layered approach that makes the reliability of what your application is doing more reliable and robust. Relying on just one piece of technology or one strategy or one way of or one perspective can yield, certain false positives where people start to not believe in that one piece of technology. But when you got two or three different technologies that are validating and confirming some of the data that
Mhm.
it's seen,
Yeah.
now you're looking at a much more vibrant, reliable application of multiple technologies. And
But it may not be just technology, right? You're saying you're augmenting human decision-making process. So it may be providing assistance to the human who is already making decisions on this. So back to our topic on facial recognition. How does this, how does this really play out? Why is this relevant, right? I mean, that's the big question.
well, why would it be important to have facial recognition in the first place? I think that's a
Why?
fundamental question. Why,
Yeah.
why, why is it needed? I guess the question is it needed? And if it is, for what purpose? Like, what is the need for it, right? And
Need
that's.
is a strong word.
I mean, what is the need for?
Is that a luxury or is it a need?
I mean, what is the purpose of facial recognition? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a great question.
is it to identify? I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is identifying an individual, right? Or maybe, I mean, I just that's the application, right?
Which is exactly
It's
why IBM is
identity.
pulling back. Yeah. So, we
IBM is pulling back. Oh,
yeah.
really? Wow, what are they doing?
So, well, they have stopped research on it,
Oh, wow.
and Amazon has put a moratorium on sale for the next year to I believe it's to the U.S. government, but don't know specifically. And that was announced in June as well. But I think the essence of it might be coming back to what you just discussed, right? We know of technology that today identifies humans to be or present in, let's say, an area where humans shouldn't be present, and that could be due to safety reasons, right?
That could
Where
be.
you're in an industrial facility, someone's walking into an area that you should not be in. There's a safety risk right there, and you're not identifying a person by name or by face, but you're identifying that a human is present, and that is high risk, right? As a high risk area. But why do you need to know who that is?
Versus what it is, right?
Yeah, versus what it is. Is it a cat?
Is it enough to have know that a human is there, or do we need to know more about that human?
Correct.
Right? I think that's where you're.
That is what I'm
Uh,
getting at. Is
it's a
what that's
fundamental.
fundamental to this question is I think what you asked is really at the bottom of this. It's probably, I mean, before you even get into the accuracy of it and whether that is an augmentation in assisting humans in identifying a problem, it is to identify the person.
Exactly. I mean, that's the only reason to do it. I mean, to have that, right?
Right.
But and you start to peel the onion back, and you can't really peel it back further than that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the true nature of the application, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be used for great things. Yeah, I want to know if that person is allowed in that area for security purposes, right? For safety purposes, as you mentioned, right? I don't want to go and try to identify somebody, me, a human, identify somebody to say, hey, you shouldn't be there. I want a
Mhm.
machine to do this for me. Or I want an automated, you know, technology to do this for me. And, you ask the fundamental questions. Is it important? Is it really value added?
So, in a restricted area, it may be valuable. Today you have scans, you have HID cards that you scan and walk into a facility or an area within a facility, and you know who is in there. and for safety reason, you know if that person is certified to be in that, and trained to be in that area. And you could do that. A quick scan would tell you that, right? Um, but is there, there's other technology that's available today that
Yeah,
you can deploy, right? So
exactly.
do you really need an additional technology? And then the question is, why not? Right? I mean, that's the other question. Why not? If the technology is available, why not?
That's a very thought-provoking question. Why not? I mean, I think it's what wise people, what some people always say, why not? If it's there, we got to find a use for it, right? Is it, and it comes back to the fundamental point. Is it necessary to know the identity of an individual, the exact
It's
identity?
it may be more efficient to use a single camera to maybe identify who's walking into a certain section of a facility, for example, rather than using an identification like an HID card. But I do go back to your question. I don't think I can justify a good answer for is it necessary?
Well,
We've
maybe,
had that.
maybe, maybe
Yeah.
everybody that's trying this technology and trying to implement these technologies in different applications should ask the fundamental question: is it necessary? I mean, look at we could ask what are the biggest phone makers in the world. Is it necessary to have a facial recognition security app versus your fingerprint?
It's again convenience, efficiency, speed, right?
But is it really?
Well, with the facial recognition on your phone, it is a matter of convenience and security at the same time, right?
It is. But is it that much more valuable? Because to
Well, the
me,
premise is
if I
that
pick up the phone, I normally pick up the phone with my finger ready as I pick up the phone to be on the home screen to
you
allow
may
it
be
to
you
open.
may be wearing gloves,
That's true. I could be wearing gloves. I could be.
especially if you live in a cold, uh, region. You may be wearing,
Well,
most of the year, half of the year, maybe more than that, right? You'll be packed up in winter clothing.
well, I'd argue that if if we really needed facial recognition, why don't you make voice technology better? It could recognize your voice being able to unlock the phone.
Alexa does it today, right? Google does it. Google
Mm-hmm.
Home, Google
Mm-hmm.
Alexa's, they both do it. But, you know, let me ask a different question and maybe take a different angle to it. If we were to use facial recognition, where would you be needing it, or where would anybody consider the application of facial recognition a good technology to use?
Yeah.
Or
It,
technology, not even say, don't even, maybe good or bad is a bad way to put it, right? A technology that is a valid application.
yeah. I think I think the way that facial recognition technology can be used is in a way of a free flowing environment, right? Where the doors open for you because they know you. You don't need to go and use your thumbprint to put in a code to actually do anything. You walk into your environment in a much more seamless way, but secure way. That it almost feels, as you mentioned, you make life a little easier.
It's
It's
convenience, not a
convenient,
necessity.
absolutely. But it just makes me feel better that nothing is obstructing me to what I need to get to, and the world knows that I'm coming into this space and it's reacting to me because it knows me.
So then, if that is the case, the question then is, what value does it bring in an application that makes it uh, infinitely more, effective or adding value than other methods to identify a person, or recognize your identity? I mean, it may be you, that may be using it for your own use. Maybe you want to walk into your house and the house recognize you, open the doors, just a set. You know what I mean? So there may be, it may not be a third party. So is there enough value?
I think I think facial recognition can go farther than identity if you really think about it. This is where this would be truly uniquely adopted, right? Where we call this the non-verbal communication, reading your emotions, your facial expressions, how you feel, what's going on. I think facial recognition technology could almost understand how you might be feeling and might be able to respond to certain things on how you feel. So when you say it's not just about convenience, it's more than that.
So which brings us to maybe this is the next human machine interface.
That's very, very unique perspective. See how we passed the most critical identity core into who you are and how the machines can affect or really interact with your world. I mean, this is the bridge of machine and human at its core, right?
Absolutely.
And I think we hear a lot
Well,
about this, you know?
yeah, if the machine needs to understand you, your emotion, your responses to what's going on around you, or get some feedback, a direct feedback for the machine, maybe that facial recognition is necessary. Um, Now, given the amount of time we've got left, I think we also need to hit on another important aspect. If this is great, if it identifies you and if it has great value and it could be the next generation HMI, then what's the problem?
What's the problem with adoption or with people kind of
Yeah.
so
What's the worry? What's the concern?
well, I mean, I think the jury's still out about a warrior concern because we don't know if it's that good or if it's not or it's too good. It's too good it's scary or that it's not good enough to well wait a few years, right? To use it. I mean, where do people believe that facial recognition technology is today? I mean, that's the premise of this, right?
So it really
Are
does
they
come down to
scared that it's so
yeah.
good? Or are they not adopting and abandoning it because it's not good enough? You see what I'm see this
Yeah.
is the fundamental core.
I think it is more, at least from what I can tell, in the couple of companies that have made some movement on it, right? Um, that is something to do with the latter. I think they fear that the accuracy they want to get to isn't there and therefore could have false positives and lead to incorrect decisions and bad consequences.
Well, now you're leading into the application of it, which is also the premise, right? Is what are you using it for?
Yep.
What are you using it for that the false negatives make the application bad enough to abandon it, right?
Which,
Which brings a very unique perspective on the emergence of accuracy, privacy, application, where these technologies are being,
yes.
used.
So this could then be really a policy decision
Mm.
as to where or where not to be used. Because if the problem is with the accuracy of it and how good the technology is, then a company like IBM or Amazon should be trying to make it better and get to a point where we are absolutely confident about the outcome of an application of that technology. Whereas abandoning it isn't necessarily helping you make it better, is it?
You might be right. Maybe there's you're right. I think the policy on the application of this technology may be some room, right? You can use this technology for X, Y, and Z, but you can't use it for A, B, C, and D, right?
Yep.
Maybe that's where we get to. But I mean, just think about it, how powerful a technology can be where you're now regulating how to use it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I-
so it must be either crazy good, scary good, or you know, if people are or
throwing up a
maybe
lot of
it's
false negatives. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, false positives.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is this isn't the only technology that has controversial implications. If you look at artificial intelligence and some of the comments that, Elon Musk has made about what AI can do, you know, it's pretty clear that that's also going in the same direction.
Well, you have other people like Jack uh, Ma from Alibaba disagreeing with Mr. Musk. You remember that nice
Yeah.
little episode where the clashes of ideology just rang free. I mean, I mean, nobody missed that one, right? But
Yeah.
it's a coming back to the core concept. It's a philosophical and a policy decision on how we implement and use powerful technologies to better our lives
Yeah.
or to, you know, put our lives in a different realm of unknown, right? People don't like unknown. They want
Absolutely.
certainty. We like certainty, right?
Yep.
And the minute you get into a world of unknown and it's uncontrollable and it's chaos, then, you know, why do we do that?
With artificial intelligence, we're definitely stepping into unknown territory, and there is some parts of AI that's well developed, some parts of AI still developing, and I think to your point earlier about where to apply some of this technology, I mean, it's very easy for us to tell. For example, some of the technology that we see applied in finance and retail are not applied in industrial today.
Hmm.
I'm talking AI,
Yeah,
right? Now, it's not to say that AI isn't applied in industrial, but it isn't the same level of broad use that we see. Partly because there are significant, you know, um, consequences to an AI decision going wrong. Safety, human safety, environmental safety, and many other things. And so
and that's
I,
we talked about this in a previous one about closing the loop with AI, right?
Mhm.
Where you said it, and it's in a mind of its own. It's making decisions on its own based on the data that it's grabbing, right?
yeah,
That is, a very unique perspective and something that people should, where's the kill switch, right? Where's the emergency exit? When things get out of control, there's got to be an emergency exit, right?
if you're
Especially,
predicting sales, future sales of an organization, AI isn't going to be, causing too much of a negative consequence if it goes wrong. But the
that's true.
consequences are different in other areas, right? It all depends on application.
Yeah, and sometimes the application may not even be worth the AI. People don't realize that they think AI could solve everything and be part of everything. And, you know,
It's much like the facial recognition. Where do you actually need it? Is
where do
it
you need it?
necessary?
Is it necessary? And that's where we come. Is it that good? Is it not that good? But at the core of it, is it necessary? And that's where we leave
Absolutely.
you this episode. Challenge yourself to understand whether facial recognition technology is necessary.
We would absolutely love your comments and
Absolutely.
share that with us as you always do. And join us, at any of the podcast sites or on our website, Digital Twin Podcasts, or you can also reach us at Facebook and YouTube.
We'll see you.
And
Have a good week.
until next week, see ya.